seen today?
The ones I saw of the kind of rose gold dress and the red dress were both in that file.
Now, what, if anything, did Mr. Depp say to you or ask you about how you got those cuts on your arms?
Nothing.
What, if anything, has Mr. Depp ever said to you or asked you about any injuries that you've sustained over those years?
Johnny's obviously never asked me how I got any of those scars.
Did you ever witness Mr. Depp self-injuring himself?
Often. He did that often.
Please tell the jury about that. What did he do?
I first started, I can't tell you what I told my therapist, but I almost called 911 in New York in 2014, August of 2014, I believe, because I thought he had done himself an injury. He often, in fights, would cut his arms or hold a knife to his chest or draw blood superficially at first, but later, like in 2016, especially as our relationship was ending. He also put cigarettes out on himself. He'd flick them at me, and once or twice tried to put one out on me, but mostly he would do it while screaming at me. He once did it right in front of me, screaming at my face as he put the cigarette out on his cheek.
Now, I'm going to take you to September 15, 2015, and Michelle, if we can bring up Depp exhibit, that's Plaintiff's Exhibit 345A. This is another audio recording, and it's 5:54 to 7:55. I'd like to move the admission, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, 345A in evidence. Thank you.
If you can play, Michelle, please.
I was going to pour you one.
I'm an alcoholic. You should.
I don't have any control over how much you drink. But you don't have any control over whether I tell you the truth or not. Have you changed lately? Yeah, you've changed.
Well, your truth is really interesting too.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm the first person
Give me a glass
that's
of wine,
noticed.
please, so I can go downstairs.
Okay. Yes. Your escape route. I see.
Not escaping. I'll be back in 15
Oh,
minutes.
of course. 15 minutes, just like last time.
15.
Just like last time. When I had to pull you out of the bathroom. Well, when you passed out naked in the bathroom in there.
Did you pull me out?
Tried to.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you get inside?
It didn't get inside.
Well, how did you try to pull me
By
out?
pounding on the door and waking you up every 15 minutes and then falling asleep next to the door so I could hear you snore. In case if you vomited, I could call EMS if you ever stopped snoring.
Because you were
Because if
afraid I was going to die.
I thought you would choke on your own vomit, which is very likely with you.
Really?
Yes, very
But I
likely.
vomit a lot.
Yes.
What?
Yes, you do vomit a lot in your sleep, even
Really?
Oh, it's news to you? Then this is affecting you a lot more than I thought it was.
I'll be so good. I hope so.
What, you don't vomit a lot? Or you're telling me? Look me in the eye, tell me you don't vomit a lot. Go on, tell me you don't vomit a lot. You're always with me. Nice one that you try.
Please explain to the jury what the issue was in this particular tape recording.
Well, Johnny at the time was wanting to go and drink downstairs at a bar, and we were talking about 15 minutes because the last several times he had done that, it had been days. He'd disappear on a bender, get really sick, and you know the drill by now, having heard enough from me. So Another issue that we were having at the time, or that he was having at the time, that affected me is that he would pass out and vomit, and vomited very, very regularly at this stage. He was obviously drinking again. I'd given up fighting with him on that at that stage. And what I had a habit of doing is turning him over onto his side so he doesn't choke on his own vomit. It's very common for people who do that to asphyxiate. At least that's what I understood. So the advice I got was to turn him to his side, put a pillow underneath his back, and turn his head so that he didn't asphyxiate. And one time I was doing that, and he swung at me, and I told medical. And the advice, after I got their advice, I realized I can't say what the advice was, but after I got that advice, I stopped doing that. I tried to, as much as I could, leave him and just be ready to call 911 or help if I heard him choking. And sometimes that happened behind bathroom doors.
Well, and that's going to take me to September 27, 2015. Again, Depp, that's Plaintiff's Exhibit 356A, and the recording is 3107 to 3230. I'm going to move the admission, Your Honor.
Any objection to that?
No objection.
All right, 356A in evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Michelle, thank you.
Lie.
And that you punched me in the fucking thing, and you
figured
in
it
the face, and you said, "No, fuck it, no, I didn't. What the fuck are you talking about?" And I watched you lie, and then
I didn't punch you.
and
By
then
the way, I'm sorry that I didn't hit
punched
you
me
across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you, babe. You're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
No, even a lot of fights been around a long time. No. Yeah.
No, when you fucking have a closed
You
fist.
get punched. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not fucking deck you. I fucking was hitting you.
You can't
I don't know
deck me.
what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
How are your toes?
What am I supposed to do? Do this?
How are your
I'm not
toes?
sitting here bitching about it, am I? You are.
Oh,
That's the difference
you
between
poor
me
toes.
and you. You're a fucking baby.
Because you start
You
physical
are
fights.
such a baby.
Because
Grow
you-
the fuck up.
Because you start
Johnny.
physical fights.
I did start a physical fight.
Yeah, you did. So I had to get the
Because-
fuck out of there.
Yes, you did. So you did the right thing, the big thing. You know what? You are admirable. Every single time. What's your excuse? When there's not a physical fight, then what's the excuse there? You're still being admirable, right? Just by running away?
Amber, please explain to the jury what's transpiring in that audio recording, what that's about.
Well, there's two different situations that we're referencing in this fight. Two different altercations between Johnny and I involving the door. The first of which we first start talking about, where I'm talking about hitting him, I am talking about what that conversation is about the disparity. The disparity between Johnny and I in our physical fights, the disparity of how he would proactively punch me and I would have to resort to reactively hitting him. I am talking about the difference between a punch, which Johnny did often, and me having to hit him in my defense. I know the difference between those two, and I'm highlighting the difference between those two, even if he wasn't twice my size. They're very different, and that's what I'm pointing out to him. The situation that involved, the context of that, is it happened in our bedroom up in Penthouse 3. You've heard us talk about that place. And I was trying to shut a door, our bedroom door actually. I was trying to barricade myself behind this door, and Johnny was trying to get through the door. He was using his body and his limbs to try to bust through the door as I was trying to keep it closed because I knew what he would do to me when he got to me on the other side. And I was hitting his arms, his body, as he was trying to prevent me from closing the door. And that is a separate incident that we later talk about in the second half of that recording where we're talking about my toes. That involved a different incident, which was a bathroom door, and it was one of those ones that he was passing out in, and I could hear him passing out, or what it sounded like to me behind a closed doors passing out. I heard a thud, I heard a lot of commotion, I heard a glass break, And I hear what sounds like his body falling against the bathroom door. I open it to check on him, as I was accustomed to doing at that time. Johnny violently reacted to me opening the door, pushed it against me. It ran up over my toes, and he angrily came around the side of the door, swinging at me. I naturally pushed the door off of my feet, responding to the pain and also to the awareness, the knowledge that he was coming for me. Johnny later later he blamed me in his inability to understand what happened, in that he was not in his right mind, and he misunderstood that interaction and tried to blame me for starting a physical fight between us. And he even later went so far as to say, I wasn't even going to hit you. And that was the second door. I only could respond by trying to take accountability for my actions in it, what he understood my actions were, and my interpretation. And what I'm trying to say to him is, look, I can only do my best to respond. I was in pain, I was scared, and I can't promise you that when I'm scared and in pain, I won't react, thinking I know very well what our situation is and what's going to happen to me should I not react.
Thank you. So I'm going to play another clip from that same discussion, and Your Honor, it would be Plaintiff's Exhibit Deps 356B, we will call that, and it would be from 1:29:27 to 1:30:07. And I'd like to move the admission.
All right, any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, 356B in evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Michelle?
I can't promise you that I'll be perfect. I can't promise you I won't get physical again. God, I fucking sometimes get so mad I lose it. I can fucking promise you I'm gonna do everything to change. Promise you. I'm not gonna throw around divorce. I will not say divorce unless I really mean it. Unless it's it. And then I hope you leave me. I'm not going to. And me too. I will leave you. It's fair. I can't do it, you know? And I think, honestly, if we hold each other accountable to that, it's fair.
Please explain to the jury what was going on in that part of the discussion.
That's the same conversation where I am, as I was accustomed to doing, I'm taking as much responsibility as I had to in those interactions. I have to, in my relationship with Johnny, and as you have to, and somebody will not and cannot take any accountability for anything they do in a fight, as Johnny couldn't and wouldn't. I took on as much as I could for myself. I had the whole relationship been blamed for everything, for his drinking, for him hitting me, for everything in between, blamed for walking away, blamed for staying. I blame myself as well. Blame myself for my part in it, blame myself for staying, blame myself for putting up with it. And frankly, at a certain point, it's easier to take the blame, feels easier. It almost feels better to take the blame for something than to accept the senseless nature of the violence you can't change. It's almost more reassuring to take accountability for it than to accept the senseless nature of the violence that you can't change, no matter what you do, no matter what I did. No matter what I did, still hit me.
I'm now going to take you to October 5, 2015, and Your Honor, Plaintiff's Exhibit, Depp's Exhibit 393A. It's another recording, 2:40 to 3:43. Move the admission.
No objection.
All right, 393A, plaintiffs in evidence.
The matter is, Johnny, they don't know. None of your friends, whether they saw a tiny fraction. That was the tip of an iceberg. A tip of an iceberg. That was my reaction to, yet again, this happening. That is the tip of the iceberg. And if you want to use that as some sort of mental excuse or validation of
of whatever, of telling your friends or whatever they think about me or whatever, fine. But they only saw a tip of an iceberg. None of your friends
Let me ask you a
and
question.
none of this team have actually been there for one of our fights. They've never
Oh, boy.
actually
That's
seen.
That's not true.
Really? Have they been in the hallway? Yeah.
They've
Have
heard
they
it.
seen? Baby, that is absolutely not true. They have not heard everything.
Nathan
because
could fucking quote us.
Great, he can quote a part of it, but he has not been there. No one has actually been there for a fight in its entirety.
No, how could they?
No, exactly. So stop using that as some sort of excuse. Like they see it, they know, they work for you, or they're your friends. That
Please explain to the jury what you were discussing in that conversation.
Johnny would often use the fact that his, paid employees, his loyal staff would back him up in fights, and that he would constantly threaten to call them in to validate him. They threatened to call them to come into the room to have them back up him and say that it was, that my yelling or that I'm at fault, that I'm in the wrong, that it's all me. And he would do that in almost all of our fights, especially by 2015, that he would call his friends and he'd call his staff in to back him up. So that I knew and would accept that I'm at fault and that I'm wrong. And that was, what I had to agree to over and over again, just to even hope that we could have a conversation at some point in a more therapeutic sense so we could move the conversation along. That was his MO, if you will. He'd call people that work for him to back him up.
I'm going to take you to Thanksgiving 2015. Could you please just tell the jury, and we'll go through this one relatively briefly, but tell the jury about Thanksgiving and any altercations you had with Mr. Depp on that occasion.
Thanksgiving 2015, we had friends over. Johnny had Marilyn Manson over, and I had a few of my friends over. We had a son over, and maybe my father. I'm not entirely sure how long he was there. We had dinner together. Johnny was disappearing with Manson, doing coke.
Objection calls for speculation.
All right, I'll sustain that objection.
How do you know he was disappearing with Mr. Manson with coke?
That's what I knew of their relationship at the time. And he was
Objection calls for
disappearing every
speculation.
I'll sustain the objection.
All right.
So
Please continue with the
he
rest of
got
the
up for a longer period of time, not the normal every 5 minutes to go to the bathroom kind, but like he just appeared for a longer period of time. And at this stage, I was really dependent on recognizing the patterns of what he was. I was reliant on trying to figure out what he was on, what combination he was on, so I knew how to deal with him. It was incumbent, on me because it affected my safety. Dealing with somebody who was really high, dealing with Johnny high on coke and speed, meaning Adderall or some version of that, is different from the opiate Johnny, which is different from the booze Johnny, or a different combination. And there was talk of Quaaludes at the time, and Johnny was trying to get it from.
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive.
I'll sustain the objection. Anyone else?
So I was.
Please continue.
So I wanted to know what I was dealing with. It was important to my safety to know who.
Objection, non-responsive.
All right,
That's why I followed him.
All right.
Your Honor.
So what did you do next?
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
What did you do next?
I went upstairs to the apartment, the main apartment, not the apartment that we were celebrating Thanksgiving in, to try to figure out what was going on. And we had an argument that took place downstairs, and I said something to provoke Johnny. I went up the stairs ahead of him to get back to the party. He grabbed me at the top of the stairs, kind of through the stairs actually, by my shirt. Kind of flung me a little bit, but I just remember I went into the bedroom, kind of retreated into the bedroom. I had a glass of wine in my hand at the time, which spilled everywhere and shattered, and I kind of retreated into the bedroom. Johnny came in after me, and there was this heavy, like vintage style glass decanter. He picked up the decanter and hurled it at my head, my face. It missed, thankfully, but smashed into a piece of art behind me in the bedroom wall, above the bed. I got past him. I think there might have been a bit of shoving. I can't really recall and the sequence of when that happened, but I wanted to go back downstairs, and I passed my closet. I had to change my shirt, and I went back downstairs to the party to finish the evening out, and I put on a face, and we finished the evening with the guests, and then more fighting happened afterwards. Okay, thank you.
So we talked about December 15, 2015, last Thursday, and also the Bahamas over the holidays. But I did miss one picture. And Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 518? Amber, does that accurately depict the scene portrayed?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, I'd like to move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 518.
No objection.
All right, 518, defendants in evidence. You can publish.
And this is from December 15, I believe. Could you just please tell the jury what this depicts?
Yes, it's a picture of my bruised temple, and Johnny had his hand on my on part of my face with my face down, and he was punching my head. I'm repeatedly punching my head. That's what caused that bruise in my temple.
Thank you. Now, we went through the Bahamas before, and you returned from the Bahamas sometime late December, early January, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to take you to January, February of 2016. Can you please describe to the jury what was going on with you and Johnny in this January timeframe after this December 15 and the Bahamas incidents?
After the Bahamas, Johnny's sobriety fell apart. There was just none of it. It was, so he stopped communicating with the medical team that he had hired.
Objection calls for speculation.
How do you know that?
I was there. They fired him.
Objection calls for hearsay.
I'll sustain the objection.
Okay. Without telling what the medical people did, go ahead and tell what was going on with you and Johnny.
Yeah, his mental health, for lack of what it looked like, his mental health was just falling apart. That's what it looked like.
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll sustain the objection.
What did you observe that led you to believe that his mental health was falling apart?
He was
Objection, Your Honors. Calls for speculation.
She can say what she
Leading.
observed.
I'll sustain the objection as to leading. Next question.
What, if anything, did you observe about Mr. Depp's state?
He was hallucinating, auditory.
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll sustain the objection.
Please tell the jury exactly what he was doing that led you to believe he was hallucinating.
Objection leading.
Sustained.
What, if anything, was Mr. Depp doing that would have led you to believe he was hallucinating?
Same objection.
Sustained.
Please describe what Mr. Depp was saying in January of 2016.
He was talking to people who weren't there, meaning people who were not in the room. He was communicating with people and sounds and voices that weren't there. I know because I was sometimes in the room and sometimes on the phone with him. And he would tell me I had a conversation with him that I did not have. He would say I said something that I didn't have. He would comment on somebody being in the room behind me that wasn't there. It was terrifying. It was terrifying because, once he smashed a board right next to my face, and it was unclear to me whether he was even mad at me or he was convinced that the guy he said he saw me with was in the room. I didn't know if Johnny felt the man was in the room with us or not at that point.